New York City. The calendar said that summer had ended, but waves of heat rose from the pavement of York Avenue anyway, enveloping Benny as she walked home from her grad school lab. It was late on a Friday afternoon in September. Voices echoed into the air-conditioned lobby of her building on East 70th Street from a room at the back. She made her way through the dim light and cool air toward the ground floor lounge. It was an open room with vinyl tiles and orange plastic chairs. Bottles of beer, gin, and scotch, and 2-liter bottles of cola, ginger ale, and tonic water sat on a table beside cups and bags of chips. The first-year med students had a cocktail party every Friday afternoon during their first term, paid for out of their student fees. The thin man leaned against the door jamb in front of Benny, watching a short woman with dirty blonde hair and bangs cut straight across her forehead. She was in conversation with 2 other freshman students, tall and clean-cut men who were undoubtedly from Harvard or Yale or Princeton, like most of the college grads who made up the med class. They were peppering her with questions. When one of the men went to get her a drink, she looked over toward the door, rolled her eyes at the man in front of Benny, and smirked. "Is that your girlfriend?" Benny said. "I wish," he said. "Be careful what you wish for, Leroy." Benny passed her arm through his. "Let's sit down." She led him to 2 chairs by the drinks table and turned them to face each other. She poured ginger ale into the porcelain mug she brought from her room. Leroy reached for the bottle of gin and poured another drink into his plastic cup. "This one's a little more G and a lot less tea," he said. Benny took a sip of her soda as Leroy sat down. "Next week, if you want," she said, "I'll bring you a glass from my room so you don't have to drink out of that plastic shit." "Saves washing it." She shrugged. Leroy looked over her shoulder, probably searching for his would-be girlfriend. Benny turned to follow his gaze. The woman had moved across the room and was in another animated conversation, this time with the woman. "She's cute." He nodded and took a sip. "Now you know why I'm here," he said, "with all these med students. What's your excuse?" "I heard the noise on my way home. Then I saw you." She paused. "I hope I didn't offend you when I came into your room the other night." "How?" "My rant about clubbing seals." Leroy laughed. "Want to know why I'm really here?" she asked. "Happy hour?" She shook her head. "Grad school." "Sure." "Then let's go out for dinner." "What about the cute doctor?" He shrugged and shook his head. "What are you studying?" "I came to the school to learn how to rid the planet of plastic," Benny said. When our grandparents were kids, there were no plastic bags, no yogurt containers, no 6-pack rings, nothing. They were plastic virgins, eh? She smiled. There were some synthetic resins produced back then, Bakelite pot handles and telephones, but that was like holding hands for plastic virgins. Ah, they had yet to be screwed by plastic, he said. She liked that. Then before World War II, the Germans invented polystyrene and polyvinyl chloride. DuPont followed with nylon, then acrylics, polyethylene, polyurethane. During the war, the British made polyethylene terephthalate. It's used to make these. She tapped the back of a fingernail on the ginger ale bottle on the table. Now we have polypropylene underwear and fleece jackets made out of recycled bottles. Our birthright is 70 pounds of plastic garbage hanging around our necks. We drink water poisoned with effluent, breathe noxious fumes from incineration, and little boys are growing tits from bisphenol A poisoning. Leroy looked at his chest. You're a strange bird, Benny. I do my best. Is there anything else you're passionate about? Did you just wink at me? I was trying for coy. Talk to me about passion when you're sober. As he filled with the empty cup in his lap, she wondered why she had to be like that. He was good looking and seemed to like her, and here she was, blowing it. The crowd in the lounge was starting to disperse, leaving in groups to go out for dinner. Benny would have to leave soon too if she wanted to get a run in before going back to the lab. Turn it over, Benny said. Leroy was picking at the rim of his plastic cup. What? Look at the bottom. She grasped his hands and guided them to turn the cup upside down. A drop of his drink landed on the thigh of his pants. See that? 6. Polystyrene. It'll disappear. And this bottle, she reached over to the table, grabbed the bottle of ginger ale, and turned it over. 1. Peat, polyethylene terephthalate. It'll be the first to go. How? There are bacteria that eat plastic. She told him of the Japanese researchers who found Pseudomonas downstream of the nylon manufacturing plant that was dumping its waste into the river. The bacteria were using byproducts from the plant as their only source of carbon and nitrogen. They had adapted to survive on the waste from the plant. I've seen hundreds of tampon applicators, like pink snail shells washed up on beaches where sewage has been pumped into the water. Nylon fishing rope, busted up bleach jugs, coffee cup lids, you name it, the beaches are covered with it. Then there's the grocery bags flapping into trees, syringes in Tompkins Square Park. They say it's a social problem that recycling can solve, but that's not the right tack. It's a technical problem. No matter how much we recycle or landfill, burn or bury, more plastic will be made. So instead, we'll soon have microbes capable of digesting plastic. They'll eat their way through all that crap. She patted Leroy on the knee. Well, my inebriated friend, I'm going for a run in the park. What about dinner? I need to get back to the lab. You just arrived last week. What could you have going so soon? She stood up and ran her hands down her legs to loosen her jeans where they had bunched up around her thighs. I'll show you sometime soon. He put his cup on the floor. See you around, she said, and left the room. She wakes up at a cottage of some people who have let her stay there overnight. In the morning, I don't want to leave. I go down to the dock again. The lake is still, spruce and pine reflected on its surface. A loon swims into the bay, 3 chicks behind her. I sit on the edge and put my feet in the water. Ebola barks at the birds, then confirms that he's part retriever and jumps in, swimming and huffing in a circle in front of me. I laugh. He is such good company. I don't know what I'd do without him on this journey. I hug my knees and try to enjoy the sun's warmth on my back. This is work every day. The guy who she's staying with, he's offered to drive me back to the highway. He has to get some ice. No hitchhiking, okay? I tell him I'm going to walk from now on, which is a lie. My feet need a rest. Thanks for what you did last night, he says. I'm on the gravel shoulder waving goodbye. I walk for a bit, but my feet are still killing me. I stop for a rest in the shade, and the black flies descend. When I'm moving, they don't bother me too much, but when I stop to eat or rest or have a drink in the shade, they make my life miserable. I stick out my thumb. 3 cars pass, their inmates gawking, and then a truck stops. This is easy. It's a pickup with a cab. I want to go to Perry Sound. Put the dog in the back, he says. Ebola snarls at the driver, and the fur on his haunches is sticking up. I pick him up and he nips me, which is unusual. I scold him and put him in the back, closing the door on him. I climb into the cab. He's big, this guy. Not fat, but with a thick neck and a dirty baseball cap turned backwards. He has stubble, which reminds me of Dad. It's the only thing about him that reminds me of Dad. Pull that a little harder, sweetie. I slam the creaky door. We're not 5 minutes gone when he turns off the highway onto a dirt road. No houses, nothing but trees. I look at him. He stares straight ahead. He speeds up, throwing up a dirt smoke screen behind us. I can feel my heart. It's like all my blood vessels are popping. It's like there's a heart behind my eyeballs, pumping furiously. I want to go to Perry Sound. Well, I don't, sweetie. He stops the truck, undoes his seatbelt. Ebola is barking wildly behind us, throwing himself at the window. I have swear words in here, but is that my boy still here? Okay. Shut the F up, he yells as he turns around, which only serves to make Pup bark that much more. As he's turned, I open the door and jump out, hitting the ground running. It makes me sick to leave Ebola behind. I run into the woods, branches smacking me in the face and scratching my arms. I hear sticks snapping behind me, but don't look back, don't look back, don't look back. I hear Jason's laugh. Jason's her brother, who has died. I hear Jason's laugh beside me from that time I was finally faster than him and passed him on one of our runs. He's urging me on, laughing as I show him how fast I can run. I duck under a branch and need to turn left, which gives me the chance to look back to where I've been. I can see him now that he's pulled up. "Get back here, bitch," he yells. He's throwing something. Ebola hasn't stopped barking. I start to run again. I want to be far enough away that I can't see him and he can't see me. Finally I stop and hide behind a large pine. It is silent except for the light breeze rustling the silky needles above me. I remember the time I lay in the woods with Dad, looking up at the swaying trunks from the ground, the blue sky oranged by the summer sun. Neither of us saying a thing, the way I liked it best, the way he said he liked it best, with nobody talking at him. The truck door slams and the engine starts up and he squeals back the way we came. I walk slowly back toward where the noise had come from, not wanting to get lost in the woods, not wanting to be within sight of the road. I can't hear the truck anymore, but a twig snaps too close. I turn and run. The sound of footsteps is getting closer, and then I see a streak of fur run in front of me. I stop, and right there, not 20 feet ahead of me, is a large dog, not Ebola. This dog is gray, darker on its back with a bushy tail, big like a shepherd, but with much thicker fur. She stands still, one front paw off the ground as if pointing to something. Yellow-brown eyes staring at me. I back up slowly, the way she's pointing, and she takes one cautious step toward me. Every step I take is matched by one of hers. The map of my world has shrunk to our dance. Everything beyond that is white and invisible. I have to take my eyes off hers. I don't want to threaten her. When I stop, she emits a low growl, and so I continue to back up, step by step. I have to turn. I know I have to turn. I butt up against the needles of a spruce, branches too thick to allow me to penetrate and climb. All my tree climbing practice won't help me right now, not in this thicket of spruce. She jogs around me and the tree, trotting until she's 30 feet away. She stops, turns to look at me, and growls low again. I follow, not sure why, and we come to the road. I wait by the side of the road to make sure he's gone. I've got to find Ebola. The dog follows beside me, keeping to the edge of the woods while I walk on the road. She looks at me and heads into the trees, evaporating as silently and as quickly as she had first appeared. Then, before I know what's happening, the bad man is running toward me out of the woods on the other side. He tackles me. A rush of fur bolts from the trees, touching the road once as it leaps on him, tearing at the back of his leg. His fists are swinging at her muzzle, and he's screaming in pain, but she won't let go, even though she's getting smacked again and again. I see blood. I bite his hand, and the two of us are gnawing as ferociously as we can, me knowing that my life depends on it. The bastard has let go of me and tries to push the dog away, but I hold on, just chomping as hard as I can, tasting his blood. He is screaming in pain, and she has opened an artery on his leg. His pants are turning red, which I know is good. I get up and move away, then run along the road. He left his truck up the road and doubled back to surprise me, not knowing that I had a new friend. I let Ebola out of the cap, and she first licks me, then growls when she sees the other dog. She wants to go for it, but I know that will be the end of her, so I hold on as tightly to her collar as I can. The keys are in the ignition. I want nothing to do with him or his truck. I pull the keys out and throw them into the woods where they softly land. The bastard is alone now, the dog is gone, and he is hobbling along toward us. Help me! I have to drag Ebola away from him and the truck toward the main road. The bad man falls and can't get up. The last I see is him at his truck, opening the cab door and slumping against the seat. We turn and run away, and that's when I hear it, a howl that cannot be mistaken for a dog's. Thanks.
They were once known as angels from the sky and heaven.